China's economic situation has deteriorated significantly in recent years, and the bleak economy has raised fears that the country is headed for a long period of economic stagnation. Judging from the recent moves by the Communist Party leadership, Beijing appears to be at the point of panic now. The measures they are taking are exacerbating the recession rather than alleviating the crisis. From November 28 to December 2nd, Chinese President and CCP leader Xi Jinping visited Shanghai. It was his first trip since 2020, attracting attention to his policy agenda, especially in finance, technology, and welfare, and also highlighting the struggles facing Shanghai, China's economic center. Accompanied by Shanghai's party secretary and mayor, Xi visited the Shanghai Futures Exchange, a science and technology innovation park, and a guaranteed rental housing project.
支持长江三角洲区域一体化发展，并上升为国家战略，着力落实新发展理念，构建现代化经济体系。 推进更高起点的深化改革和更高层次的对外开放。
Judging from the official media in China, the CCP leader appears to have some sort of magic power. Wherever he goes, an unprecedented level of enthusiasm is seen rising in all walks of life immediately. We were very excited when he came over to see our robot. We showed the robot walking and making some flexible movements of its upper limbs. He was very concerned about the application scenarios of our humanoid robot. Finally, the General Secretary stressed that technological innovation is extremely critical. What impressed me most was the great hope that the General Secretary placed on young people. For us researchers working in universities, not only should we conduct our own scientific research, but we should teach and cultivate young people to pass on science from generation to generation. Going forward, we must fully grasp the essence of the General Secretary's speech and deliver a good performance in all areas of our biomedical innovation work. We should set our sights on the frontier areas of biomedicine innovation, such as cell and gene therapy and synthetic biology, and develop more useful, affordable, and effective drugs and medical devices for the people, to eventually contribute to the Healthy China initiative. We must strive for more breakthroughs in core technologies in strategic emerging industries and transform more innovative achievements into productivity. We also need to create a more favorable ecosystem for innovation. The General Secretary's important speech charts the course for further advancing sci-tech innovation and accelerating building Shanghai into an international sci-tech innovation center, setting new and higher targets for our work. We must redouble our efforts to live up to the General Secretary's expectations. However, during Xi's visit on November 30th, 2023, Bloomberg broke a piece of news. China International Capital Corporation, CICC, China's first Sino-foreign investment bank, issued an internal document to its research department that strictly prohibits analysts from making negative statements about the Chinese economy. CICC analysts were asked to avoid sharing negative comments when discussing China's economy or market situation in both formal or informal settings. According to the document, CICC employees should also avoid wearing luxury items or revealing their salaries to the public. The news has led to skepticism whether Xi has a realistic understanding of the current state of the economy in Shanghai and China as a whole. A well-known Chinese financial analyst published an article in November titled, "How Bad is Shanghai's Economy?" It started trending again online. We think this article is pragmatic, more so than Xi's speech. Here, we will discuss the current economy in Shanghai using some of the viewpoints and data from this article. As the year 2023 unfolds, one of the financial indicators of great interest to China is the deposits of non-banking financial enterprises. Non-banking financial entities include insurance, securities, and trusts. When enterprises or residents subscribe to funds or wealth management products and banks issue loans to non-financial institutions, the size of non-bank deposits increases. When the financial market is hot, when the savings of residents and enterprises move and so on, they will be reflected in the size of non-bank deposits. Now the deposits of these non-banking financial institutions have completely lost their growth. According to the official published data, at the end of 2022, the deposit size of China's non-banking financial institutions was 24.04 trillion yuan, and by September 2023, it was 24.23 trillion, an increase of only 0.8%. Such a weak increase is comparable to a stock market crash. The fact that funds in the hands of non-banking financial institutions virtually stopped growing in 2023 is a sign that liquidity in the financial markets has shrunk dramatically. The reason why the liquidity in the financial market has shrunk is because all the liquidity in the market has been siphoned off by the various projects carried out by the government. These projects undertaken by the local governments are to consolidate debts and manage the huge local debts. Therefore, one can see that the index of Shanghai Stock Exchange has been struggling at 3,000 points. The pressure to repay local debts in 2023 has already drained the liquidity of the financial market, and it's feared that next year will be even more disastrous. Even ordinary Chinese shareholders have seen the peculiarities of China's stock market. Let's take a look at this individual investor's rant.
今天大 A 又回到了3000点以下。
Today, the A-share stock market has returned to below 3,000 points. We have been looking down on India, but 3 years ago, when we started wearing masks, it was more than 20,000 points. Today, it is approaching 70,000 points, and all people are sharing the benefits. We have always hated the US, but 3 years ago, it was 18,000 points. Now, it has reached 36,000 points, doubling the growth. We despise Japan, but 3 years ago it was 16,000 points. Now it's 32,000 points, and all the people can enjoy the fruits of the success. Look at our market in the past few years. The financial market is the most real because it's a game of real money. It's useless to talk about how good and happy life is every day. The reality will slice you up. What was once bragged about will be slapped in the face by reality. All the things that are manipulated by forces, it's caused by humans. As to who those people are, I don't know. In this context, Shanghai as a national financial center bore the first blow in the key financial data. Namely, non-banking financial enterprise deposit growth is only 0.1%, even less than the modest national growth of 0.8%, which is only one step away from being negative growth. Considering the pressure of local debt repayment in November and December, it is expected that the growth of non-banking financial enterprise deposits in Shanghai will surely become negative. As soon as it turns negative, it means the liquidity of Shanghai's financial market has dried up. Looking at the data from the Shanghai Municipal Taxation Bureau in the first 3 quarters of this year, all the tax revenues generated in Shanghai increased by only 2.84% year-on-year compared to last year. China's tax revenues increased by a whopping 11.9% in the first 3 quarters. Why is the increase in tax revenue in Shanghai lagging far behind the national average? Because the capital is fleeing frantically through Hong Kong. Shanghai's tax revenue growth is lagging significantly behind that of Guangdong province, which is already relatively depressed. Thus, the weakness of Shanghai's economy is evident so far in 2023. For residents of Shanghai, the most intuitive feeling is, why are foreigners becoming so few in number?
Now the street of foreigners, look at it. It's not as busy as it used to be.
Colliers International released a report on Shanghai's real estate market for office buildings for the 3rd quarter of 2023. It shows that the office vacancy rate in Shanghai is expected to rise to 21.6% for the whole year. With over 20% of office space vacant, Shanghai looks like a 3rd-tier city. Behind this unprecedented phenomena is the fact that offshore financial institutions that once rented half a building in Shanghai are now contracting en masse or even outright shutting down their operations in China. Overseas financial institutions that closed their Shanghai offices in the past 2 years include the 3rd largest Dutch bank ABN AMRO, Citi Private Banking, Norway's Sovereign Wealth Fund, Morgan Stanley, Canada Pension Funds, BlackRock, Moody's, Vanguard, etc. The Shanghai government is helpless to deal with this phenomena. The financial industry is in decline, the office vacancy rate has increased sharply, and Shanghai's economy has become like a pool of stagnant water. Many Shanghainese or people who come to Shanghai as workers don't understand how everything happened.
太匪夷所思了，兄弟们。
It's unbelievable, guys. This is a shopping mall in Shanghai. I passed by it when making a takeout delivery. I saw a lot of shops were closed and shut down. I don't know why. In theory, the time of the mask is over and it's fully open. The business should be thriving, becoming better. Why are all these businesses closing down one after another, and why are they choosing to shut down after surviving the past 3 years? Brothers, let's talk about this. Let's analyze it with reason why so many stores closed after the epidemic was over. Friends who have worked in the catering industry know that this industry has a very strong cash flow. According to my observation, this shopping center is surrounded by office buildings. During working days, there should be a lot of people from nearby offices. Staff come to have meals. Some white-collar workers and elites don't want to go out on weekdays, so these restaurants should be able to survive on takeout because there are so many office buildings in the vicinity. In this regard, an economist named Lao Man analyzed that, according to data from the Shanghai Municipal Bureau of Statistics, in the first 3 quarters of this year, the profits of Shanghai's wholesale and retail industry fell by 10% year-on-year. However, in order to make up the shortfall in tax revenue, businessmen in Shanghai still struggled to pay 9.1% more tax. This kind of scraping the bottom of the barrel is just too much for local merchants. So far this year, merchants who survived the 3 years of epidemic have collectively been unable to continue. At the end of January this year, Shanghai Landmark on Nanjing Road closed its doors. At the end of August, the Pacific department store in Shanghai's well-known Shanghai district also shut down for good. According to data released by Savills, the vacancy rate of Shanghai shopping centers was 12.1% in the third quarter of 2023, much higher than the 5.4% vacancy level at the end of 2019. It can be predicted that in the days to come, all resources in the financial sector will have to be prioritized on renewing local debts, which will inevitably mean a loss of liquidity and the death of the financial sector as a whole. At the same time, foreign financial institutions will abandon their illusions and leave China for good, which is unbearable for Shanghai's economy. For those provinces in the central and western parts of the country that are highly dependent on Shanghai's financial transfers, this will be no doubt a blow to them, making it more difficult for them to borrow new debt. It's a tragic and vicious cycle. The people of Shanghai have already felt the deep chill of the arrival of the economic winter. First of all, it is a problem of unemployment. A university graduate in Shanghai is paid with a salary of only 3,500 RMB or $490 a month. I say it's too low. The boss of the pharmaceutical company replies, "At this level, we have a long line of applicants. We have to pick and choose. Even if you accept the rate of 490, we may still not accept you." Think about it. The current employment situation is really bad. It's hard enough for one to get into a university in Shanghai, but after graduation, you're in a state like this. I think it's really hard for students from out of town to stay in Shanghai. It's really hard to live on $490 a month. The next thing you know, Shanghainese are seeing price cuts at an alarming rate in the most sought-after school district.
Recently, the Meiyuan area, which is known as the top school district in Shanghai, has been in a hot search because of the drop in housing prices. 2 years ago, the price of a home in this area was as high as 200,000 yuan per square meter. Now it's discounted. The recent transaction price is less than 100,000 yuan per square meter, dropped by several million. Many people's desire to get married and have children is diminishing, leaving a shortage of students for the future. Last year, the number of kindergarten enrollment dropped by nearly 1.8 million, and more than 5,000 kindergartens closed their doors. Simply put, everyone wants to sell their homes, but not many people are buying. There are second-hand homes that are priced at a 50% discount from what they were even 2 years ago. How long do you think school district homes can hold out? Will the quality of academic degrees become diluted too?
This miserable situation is continuing to deteriorate. What is worse is that the government is at its wit's end, unable to come up with an effective prescription to stop the fall of the economy. So, now that the top leadership of the CCP visited Shanghai, is there going to be any improvement? Xi set 5 goals for Shanghai on his trip, but he didn't tell his subordinates the effective ways to realize these 5 goals. Xi demanded that the important mission of Shanghai was to build 5 centers: an international economic center, a financial center, a trade center, a shipping center, and a center for scientific and technological innovation. Xi said with scientific and technological innovation as the lead and reform and opening up as the driving force, Shanghai should be accelerated to become a modern international city of socialism with world influence, and to play a leading role in the advancement of the Chinese style of modernization. Xi claimed as the front line of China's reform and opening up, and an international metropolis deeply connected to the world, Shanghai should deepen reform and opening up from a higher vantage point to enhance its development momentum and competitiveness. However, his talk of reform and opening up is not about pluralism of thought and ideology. Instead, Xi emphasized the need to strengthen the ideological guidance of Marxism, as well as the need to pass on and promote the red culture. In addition, China's current data law and anti-espionage law aren't clearly defined, leaving a lot of room for interpretation by Chinese law enforcement agencies. They are also difficult for foreign companies to follow, causing worries that they may get into trouble with the law. This also runs counter to the reform and opening up sung by the Xi government, but the Beijing government has failed to explain and resolve these incompatible contradictions. A scholar from the Chinese Academy of Social Sciences, who is regarded as a high-level think tank of the Chinese government, said at a forum on November 18th that the Chinese government needs to adopt an expansionary fiscal policy as soon as possible to stimulate China's domestic demand in order to bring the economy back to growth. His remarks have always been regarded by outsiders as a weather vane for the Chinese government's policies. Now the scholar warns that China's GDP has been on a downward trend for most of the time, and the inflation rate is very low, reflecting a lack of domestic demand. So the government needs to adopt expansionary fiscal and monetary policies as soon as possible, in order to prevent the emergence of a situation where economic growth is stagnant but prices are rising, the so-called stagflation. He emphasized that if the opportunity to adopt expansionary fiscal policies was not seized, the Chinese economy might be plunged into long-term stagnation. In fact, China's National Development and Reform Commission issued the measures on restoring and expanding consumption as early as July this year, listing 6 major directions and 20 policy initiatives, all of which are the same as the expansionary fiscal policy advocated by the scholar. However, so far, no obvious results have been seen. In our opinion, the proposals of the CCP's think tank academics and the government's approach have not only failed to prescribe the right remedy, but have only dug the bottomless hole of China's economy deeper and deeper. This topic would take a long time to unpack, so we will just briefly analyze a few aspects here. The main reason for China's sluggish domestic demand is not that people don't have any money to spend, but that in the midst of various economic crises, the ordinary people burdened with the enormous pressure of daily living expenses and mortgages simply don't dare to spend. The biggest problem with China's finances is that the government spends money on projects with no return at all. For example, the high-speed rail is nothing but a bottomless pit. In addition to the high-speed rail project, the Chinese government keeps digging holes for itself in various aspects such as high-speed railroads, social stability projects, and hosting international mega events. The Chinese government's spending on stability has even exceeded its military spending. Both the central and local governments are very active in organizing big international events, such as the Asian Games in Hangzhou. These are projects that the local governments were not capable of organizing in the first place, but the central government has eventually footed the bill. Chinese officials dig a hole today, fill it up tomorrow, and then keep digging more and more holes. The central government under Xi Jinping has also raised a number of questions about its handling of economic issues. Xi was in Shanghai inspecting the Shanghai Futures Exchange and local technology companies. The trip is intended to stabilize investor confidence, especially among foreign investors. But the problem is that both the domestic market and the futures market are products of a free economy, which must be based on fairness and the rule of law. If the Chinese authorities continue to replace the rule of law with the reign of man, it will be difficult for foreign investors to regain confidence in investing in China. Shanghai is a window on China's economy. As described by the economist Lao Man, Shanghai and indeed China as a whole can only fall step by step towards the bottom of the abyss. What else can we say about this? We can only wait for the result.